I had just come back from Afghanistan, ready to finally breathe easy. The last thing I expected when I walked through that door was to catch my wife on her knees, pleading with a guy I didn't recognize. But there she was, Lily, acting like everything was normal. And the guy? He didn't seem to care one bit about the storm that was about to hit. As my eyes locked with Lily's, my mind went numb. I had a million questions, but one thing was clear. This wasn't the woman I thought I knew. I stepped forward, and my hand automatically reached for my Glock. It felt almost automatic, like it was the only thing between me and complete chaos. "Who is he, Lily?" I said, the words barely escaping my lips. Her eyes went cold. Her answer? She didn't even try to apologize. "You're too late, Mark," she shrugged, almost as if she had been waiting for me to come back, like this was just another day. The betrayal hit hard. And in that moment, everything I thought I knew about love, trust, and loyalty came crashing down. But what happened next? That's where things got dark. I couldn't move. The world felt like it had just turned upside down. The woman I loved, the woman I'd been fighting to protect, was on her knees in front of another man. And I had just walked into it. It was like someone had just hit me with a sledgehammer. Her eyes met mine, and there was no shame, no guilt, just cold indifference. She didn't even flinch when I stepped closer, my hand still gripping my Glock, every muscle in my body tense, ready to do something. Anything to make sense of this mess. "Who the hell is he, Lily?" I asked again, my voice shaking, but not from fear, anger. Betrayal. My pulse raced as I tried to make sense of what I was seeing. The man beside her didn't even try to hide. He was sweating now, looking at me like he was about to make a run for it. But I didn't care about him. He was just a pawn in her twisted game. I wasn't about to waste my energy on some guy who was clearly just there to get a thrill out of my pain. Lily, though, she was the one who had built the house of lies, the one who had shattered everything. I needed answers, and I needed them now. She stood up slowly, smoothing her dress like she wasn't standing in front of her husband, who had just caught her in the most humiliating way possible. "Mark," she said with that same smug look on her face, her voice calm as if nothing was wrong. "Don't overreact. It's not what you think." I took a step forward, still gripping the Glock. The anger inside me was boiling over now, and I wanted to scream at her, demand answers. But I held it together. "Barely. Not what I think," I repeated, my words coming out colder than I felt. "You're on your knees, with another man in my house, in my life, and you want me to believe it's not what I think." She just shrugged, as if she couldn't care less. "It's not like we were ever happy. You left, Mark. You chose to leave, to go to Afghanistan. You think I'm supposed to just sit around and wait for you? I have needs too, you know." Her words cut deeper than I thought they could. It wasn't just the act itself that hurt. It was the way she spoke about it, like I was the problem, like I was the one who had abandoned her. The audacity to say that, to justify what she had done with such coldness. It was like a slap to the face. I took another step forward, my knuckles wide around the gun, but I wasn't going to let myself go there. Not yet. I couldn't just let her off the hook with some pathetic excuse. "You've been lying to me this whole time," I said, barely able to keep my voice steady. "You made me believe we were still something, that you were still waiting for me. You made me believe in us. And now, I find you here with this piece of trash, playing me like a fool." Lily didn't even flinch at my words. Instead, she took a deep breath and stood up straighter, like she was the one in control here. "You're the one who didn't care enough to come home," she said, her voice calm, like she was lecturing me. "You think I should sit around waiting for you, getting older by the day, while you're out there playing soldier? Maybe I didn't wait for you. Maybe I found someone who actually pays attention to me, Mark." The man behind her, Chad, started to back away slowly. He didn't want to be a part of this anymore. But it wasn't him I was concerned with, it was her. Lily, the woman I had been married to, the woman who had completely shattered my trust. "You really think this guy is worth it?" I asked, pointing my gun toward Chad. "You're risking everything for him? For what?" She turned her head towards him, then back to me. "He's here for me, Mark. He actually sees me. Maybe that's something you should have tried doing." Her words hit me like a freight train, and for a moment, I was speechless. How had we gotten here? How had everything gone so wrong? "I'm done," I finally said, my voice barely above a whisper. The weight of it settled over me like a lead blanket. "I don't know who you are anymore, Lily. This isn't my wife. The woman I loved wouldn't do this. You can't even apologize. You're standing there like this is just another Tuesday. Her eyes flickered with something. Was it guilt? No. It was defiance. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't even close. You think I care about your feelings now? She sneered, her voice full of venom. I don't owe you anything anymore. I'm done with you, Mark. I've been done for months. I took another step back, trying to steady myself. The betrayal was still fresh, the pain sharp. I had to leave, I knew it. But I wasn't about to let her off that easy. You're going to regret this, I said, my voice cold as ice. But I'll let you live with your choices. I'm out of here. I turned to leave, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the silent room. But as I reached for the door, I could hear her call after me. Go ahead, Mark. Walk out. You'll come crawling back. They always do. I didn't respond. I just left. But in my mind, I was already making my next move. I barely slept that night. The bed felt too empty. It was as if the life I had built was being torn apart, piece by piece. I could still see her face, the way she spoke, so cold, so indifferent. The woman I had come home to wasn't the same person who had kissed me goodbye before I left for Afghanistan. She was someone else entirely. Someone I didn't recognize. Someone who had lied to me for months. The anger was still bubbling under my skin, but it wasn't just anger anymore. It was a mixture of hurt, disbelief, and confusion. How could she do this to me? After everything? After all the sacrifices? I thought I had known her. But now, I didn't even know where to start to pick up the pieces of what was left. I spent most of the night pacing the house, replaying everything in my head. How could she be so casual about it? How could she be so dismissive of everything we had? It didn't make sense. But then, maybe nothing about this had ever made sense. By the morning, I couldn't stay there anymore. I needed to get out. I grabbed my keys and left the house, not knowing where to go, but just needing to be away from the place that had once felt like home. The open road seemed like the only place where I could breathe without her lies suffocating me. I drove for hours, the hum of the engine the only thing that kept me grounded. I didn't even have a destination in mind. It wasn't about where I went. It was about the fact that I was running from the betrayal, running from the woman who had promised me everything, and yet delivered nothing but lies. The emptiness of the road seemed to match the emptiness I felt inside. How was I supposed to process this? To deal with this? I had been away for so long, believing everything she told me. I had trusted her, believed in the vows we made. Now, I didn't even know where to begin to rebuild. I pulled over to the side of the road, needing to collect myself. My hands were shaking as I reached for my phone, but I didn't know who to call. Everyone was either too far away or too removed from this situation to understand. But there was one person who might know what I was going through. My best friend, Ryan. I dialed his number, my thumb hovering over the screen as I waited for him to pick up. Mark? What's up? Ryan's voice came through the phone, sounding as casual as ever, completely unaware of what I was about to say. Ryan, I need to talk. Now, I said, my voice cracking. There was a pause on the other end of the line. What's going on? I just caught Lily cheating on me, I said, the words coming out in a rush, like a dam breaking. I came home from Afghanistan, and there she was, on her knees in front of some guy. I don't know what to do, man. Ryan was silent for a long moment. He knew me well enough to understand the weight of those words. Shit, man. I'm sorry. What are you gonna do? I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I don't know. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I even want to fix this. But I'm so damn lost right now. You don't have to figure it all out right now, Ryan said, his voice steady. But don't do anything you'll regret. Think about your next steps. I could feel the truth in his words, but the anger, the betrayal, was still eating at me. I wasn't ready to forgive, and I wasn't ready to just let it go. How could I? She had thrown everything we had away for some guy who wasn't even worth the time. Thanks, man, I said, my voice still shaking, but a little calmer now. I'll figure it out. I don't know what to do with myself. Take it one step at a time, Mark, Ryan replied. And remember, you're not alone in this. You've got people who care about you. The call ended, but I still felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders. I wasn't sure how much longer I could keep pretending that everything would be okay. Because right now, nothing felt okay. I started the car again and drove aimlessly. I wasn't sure where I was going, but the further I got away from that house, the clearer my mind became. The house. My home. The place where I had thought we'd built something real. But now, it was just a reminder of everything that had been shattered. I drove until the sun started to dip low in the sky, and by then, I knew I couldn't keep running forever. I had to go back, face her, confront her. It wasn't about fixing the relationship anymore. It was about closure. I needed to know what had happened, why she had done this, and most importantly, I needed to know what the hell I was going to do next. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. Hell, I didn't even know if I wanted to. But I knew I couldn't just leave things like this. I had to face her. I had to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. It was time to go back. I arrived back at the house just as the last light of the day was fading. The air felt heavier than before, and as I stood in front of the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was inside would change everything. I wasn't sure what I expected, but it was clear I couldn't put this off any longer. I had to confront her. I had to get the answers I deserved, even if they weren't the ones I wanted to hear. I stepped inside, the door creaking as it opened. The house felt empty, even though she was there. Her presence was absent in a way, like she was physically in the room, but emotionally checked out. That thought sent another stab of pain through me. "Lily," I called out, my voice low, but firm. No response. I walked through the hallway, feeling the silence wrap around me like a heavy blanket. I found her in the kitchen, standing by the counter, her back turned to me. She was busy, maybe trying to act like everything was normal, like nothing had happened. But I knew better. I could feel the tension in the air. She had to know this conversation was coming. "Lily," I said again, this time more forcefully. She froze for a moment before slowly turning to face me. Her expression was unreadable, almost detached, as if the last 24 hours hadn't happened at all. "Mark," she said, her voice almost too calm. "What are you doing here?" Her words were a slap in the face. The woman I had spent years with, the one I thought would always be there for me, was acting as though this whole situation was no big deal. Like my return didn't matter. Like the betrayal hadn't just happened under my own roof. I didn't hold back this time. I walked towards her, every step fueled by the frustration and anger that had been building since the moment I first walked in and saw her with him. "You think this is normal?" I asked, my voice rough, but controlled. "You think you can just do this to me and act like nothing's wrong? That I'm just going to forget what I saw?" She didn't even flinch. Instead, she took a breath, like she was preparing for a fight, and crossed her arms. "I'm not going to sit here and explain myself to you, Mark. I don't owe you an explanation. You've been gone for months, and I had to live my life." Her words hit me like a punch in the gut. "Live your life," I repeated, struggling to keep my composure. "You don't get to justify this, Lily. You don't get to act like what you did is excusable. You've been lying to me this whole time." Her eyes narrowed slightly, and I saw a flicker of something in them. Maybe guilt, or maybe just contempt. I couldn't tell. But there was no remorse, none of the things I expected to see after what had happened. Just that same coldness. "Look, Mark, I don't owe you anything anymore," she said, her voice growing colder with each word. "You think you're the only one who's had it hard? You think you're the only one who's suffered? While you were over there playing soldier, I was here, alone. Do you think I wasn't lonely? Do you think I didn't need someone?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had given everything for this woman, for our marriage. And here she was, blaming me for everything. It wasn't enough that she'd betrayed me. Now she was trying to make me feel guilty for not being there when she needed me. "You think I chose to be gone?" I said, stepping closer to her. "You think I wanted to be away from you, away from everything I've worked for? But I was trying to protect us, Lily. I thought I was doing the right thing." Her laugh was bitter, almost mocking. "Protect us? Don't make me laugh. You think you were the only one protecting something? While you were off fighting your battles, I was fighting my own demons. And that's why I found someone else. Someone who actually cared." The betrayal felt sharper now. The weight of it was crushing, like I could hardly breathe. "You're going to blame me for this?" I said, barely able to contain my fury. "You think I'm the one who messed everything up? You were the one who made a choice. You were the one who decided that our marriage wasn't enough." She stared at me, her eyes empty, and for a brief second, I saw the woman I once knew, the woman I once loved. But it quickly disappeared behind the wall of indifference she had built. "I made a choice, yes," she said, her voice soft but firm. "And I don't regret it. I'm not sorry for anything I've done. You had your chance, Mark. And now? Now I'm done." I stood there, my mind racing. I wanted to scream at her, to lash out, to make her feel the pain she had caused. But I knew it wouldn't change anything. She had already made her choice. The woman I had known was gone, and in her place stood someone I didn't recognize, someone who didn't care about the destruction she had left in her wake. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "You're just going to walk away from everything we had?" Lily didn't even flinch. "Yes, I am. I've moved on, Mark. It's time for you to do the same." And with that, she turned her back to me. The coldness of her actions, the finality of her words, it was like a door closing in my face. I stood there for a long moment, letting her words sink in, letting the reality of what had happened hit me. And when I finally turned to leave, I didn't look back. I left the house that night feeling like I had just been torn apart, piece by piece. My mind was clouded with so many thoughts, but one thing stood out clearly. This wasn't the same life I had come back to. This wasn't the marriage I had fought for. The pain, the anger, it was all consuming. I could barely see straight. My emotions were a whirlwind, and I didn't know where to go from here. I ended up at a bar, sitting at a corner table with a whiskey in my hand. The burn of the alcohol felt like it matched the fire inside me. Everything felt like a blur. The betrayal, the lies, the coldness. Lily didn't care. She didn't care about us, about what we had built. It was like I was just a casualty in her search for something new, someone who could give her the attention she craved. But I wasn't just going to let this slide. I couldn't. No matter how hard I tried to tell myself that walking away was the right thing to do, that she wasn't worth the fight anymore, something inside me wouldn't let it go. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the part of me that still loved her, even after everything she had done. But no matter what, I needed answers. I needed to know why. As I sat there, nursing the drink, my mind kept racing back to that moment. That first moment when I caught her. It was like a scar burned into my memory. I couldn't shake the image of her on her knees, with him standing over her like some prize. How could she do that to me? How could she betray everything we had for a man who clearly didn't give a damn about her? I clenched my jaw, feeling the bitterness rising in my throat. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without understanding why. Not without her seeing the consequences of her actions. I had to do something that would make her realize the full weight of what she had done. But what? What could I do? My mind raced through possibilities, but nothing felt right. Nothing felt like it would make a difference. And then, as I sat there stewing in my anger, a thought began to form. A dark, dangerous thought. It wasn't something I was proud of, but it felt like the only thing that might give me some semblance of control over a situation where I felt completely powerless. I grabbed my phone and texted Ryan. The words came out quickly, too quickly for me to think them through. "I need to know where Chad is tonight. I have a plan." I didn't wait for his response. I knew Ryan would understand. He was the one who had been there through all of it, through the long nights, the endless questions about whether or not I was doing the right thing by staying with Lily while I was overseas. He knew me well enough to know I wouldn't let this go. The seconds felt like hours as I waited for him to respond. My heart was pounding in my chest, and every nerve in my body was screaming for something, anything, to happen. I needed to know where Chad was. I needed to know where I could find him. Ryan's message came through almost immediately. "I'll get you the info. Just don't do anything crazy." The word crazy echoed in my head, but I didn't care. I was past the point of reason. I was past the point of trying to hold on to what little respect I had left. This wasn't about reason anymore. It was about vengeance. It was about making her feel what I had felt. It was about putting everything on the line to make sure she understood that this wasn't just some small betrayal. This was her life, too, and she had destroyed it. I stood up from the table, my legs a little unsteady, the weight of what I was about to do hanging heavily over me. The decision felt almost inevitable, like a storm gathering strength. The bar seemed louder now, the clinking of glasses, the murmurs of conversation. It was like the world outside was oblivious to the storm that was brewing inside me. I wasn't the same person I had been yesterday. I wasn't the man who trusted Lily, who believed in our vows. No, I was something else now, someone who had been betrayed beyond measure, and who was now willing to do whatever it took to make it right. My phone buzzed again. Ryan had sent me the details, where Chad would be tonight. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my jacket, threw money on the table, and walked out. The night air hit me like a slap in the face, and for the first time since I had come back from Afghanistan, I felt awake, alive with purpose. It wasn't the kind of purpose I was proud of, but it was purpose nonetheless. I drove through the city, the streets familiar but foreign at the same time. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly I thought my knuckles might split. My mind was laser-focused, the adrenaline coursing through my veins as I thought about what was ahead. I wasn't going to just let this go. Not without understanding why she had done it. Not without making sure she understood exactly what I had seen and what it had done to me. I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. As I approached the location Ryan had given me, I could feel the weight of the decision pressing down on me. This wasn't just about getting answers anymore. This was about taking control of a situation that had taken everything from me. And I knew, deep down, that the moment I walked into that place, there would be no going back. The streets were empty as I made my way to the address Ryan had sent me. The night felt cold, the kind of cold that digs deep into your bones. The headlights from my car were the only thing cutting through the darkness, and each mile felt like an eternity, dragging me closer to the confrontation I wasn't sure I was ready for. But I had made my decision. I couldn't go back now. As I turned the corner, the bar Ryan had mentioned came into view. It wasn't much, just a dimly lit dive with a few cars parked outside. A couple of people were hanging around, talking and laughing, oblivious to the storm that was about to hit. My pulse quickened as I parked a little further down the street, out of sight. I sat in the car for a moment, gathering myself. This wasn't something I had planned. In fact, I didn't even know what I was going to do once I confronted Chad. But I couldn't keep running. I couldn't let her, and him, get away with this without knowing what it had cost me. The rage, the betrayal, it was all boiling up inside me, and it had to come out. I checked my phone again, making sure the details Ryan had given me were right. Chad was supposed to be inside the bar, talking with some friends. It wasn't much of a lead, but it was all I had. And right now, that was enough. I took a deep breath, pushed open the car door, and stepped into the cool night air. My boots hit the pavement with each step, and the weight of my gun at my side felt heavier than ever. This wasn't just about confronting the guy who had taken my wife. It was about reclaiming control over something that had been ripped from me. This was about putting an end to the uncertainty, the questions, the endless pain. I was going to make sure he knew exactly what he had done. I walked toward the entrance of the bar, and as I got closer, the noise from inside grew louder. The chatter, the clinking of glasses, the music, everything seemed so trivial, so meaningless compared to what I was about to do. But the moment I stepped inside, everything fell silent for a brief moment. Heads turned as I walked in, and I could feel the eyes of the few patrons who were still there on me. Chad was sitting at a table with a few guys, laughing, completely unaware that his life was about to change. I didn't give myself time to second-guess it. I walked straight toward him, my footsteps deliberate, my mind clear. This was it. No turning back. "Chad," I said, my voice sharp, cold. The words sliced through the air like a blade. He looked up at me, blinking a few times in confusion, probably trying to place my face. But then recognition hit him. His face went pale. "Mark," he said, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer him right away. I just stood there, looking at him, letting the tension build. I could feel my blood boiling, but I wasn't going to let him see how much this hurt. No, he wasn't going to get the satisfaction of seeing me crumble. Instead, I was going to make him understand. "You think you can just walk into my life like nothing's wrong?" I said, my voice low but laced with venom. "You think I wouldn't find out what's been going on behind my back?" Chad's eyes shifted nervously. He was trying to act cool, like he didn't care, but I could see the fear creeping into his expression. He had no idea what was coming. I didn't mean to cause any trouble," he stammered, clearly rattled. "Look, I didn't know she was still with you. I didn't." I cut him off before he could finish, stepping closer to the table, leaning in. "You didn't know? You think that makes a damn bit of difference? You knew exactly what you were doing when you got involved with her. You knew what kind of mess you were walking into." The words felt like they were coming from somewhere deep inside me, somewhere raw, somewhere furious. But Chad wasn't getting off that easy. Not after everything. "I should have killed you the moment I walked in on you too," I continued, the words leaving my mouth before I even realized how much anger I was letting out. "You think this is just a joke, don't you? That you can just waltz in, play games with someone else's wife, and walk away without any consequences?" Chad's face was a mixture of fear and confusion, like he didn't know how to respond. His friends, sitting at the table with him, started to slowly back away, sensing the tension in the air. I wasn't focused on them. I was focused on him. "You need to leave," I said, my tone deadly serious. "You're not welcome here anymore. And I want you to understand something. What you did to me, to my life, to my marriage, It's not something I'm going to forget. I was close now, too close. His eyes were wide, his hands shaking, and for the first time, I saw the true fear in his eyes. The fear of someone who knew they had crossed a line, and now, there was no way to undo it. "I'll leave," he said quickly, standing up, his voice frantic. "I don't want any trouble, man. I'll go." He started backing away from the table, and I could see the relief flooding his face as he made a hasty exit. I didn't stop him. I just stood there, watching him go, my heart pounding in my chest. As he left, I turned to the bartender, who had been watching the scene unfold. "Get him out of here," I said, my voice cold. "Make sure he doesn't come back." I didn't wait for the bartender to respond. I knew it was over. I had done what I had come to do, but there was still something gnawing at me. The anger wasn't gone. It wasn't even close. I still wanted to destroy everything she had built with him. I still wanted her to feel the full weight of her betrayal. But for now, I had my answer, and it was time to leave. The drive back to the house felt like the longest journey of my life. The anger, the rush, the adrenaline, it all started to fade, leaving only the hollow feeling inside. Confronting Chad hadn't been enough. It hadn't given me the satisfaction I thought it would. Sure, he was gone, but the emptiness remained. The deeper question, why? Why had Lily done this to me? Betrayed me like this? And why did it feel like I was the last to know? I couldn't push it out of my mind. No matter how much I tried to tell myself to let go, to walk away, it wasn't that simple. This wasn't something I could just forget or pretend didn't happen. She had taken everything from me. Our home, our trust, our love, it was all a lie. And I needed to know why. I needed closure, even if it meant breaking myself apart just to get it. I parked in front of the house and sat there for a few minutes, staring at the front door. It was a familiar sight, but now it was foreign. This wasn't my home anymore. This was a place where I had been deceived, a place where my world had come crashing down. But still, I found myself getting out of the car, walking toward that door like I had a choice. When I stepped inside, the house was quiet, almost too quiet. There was no warmth, no comfort. The scent of betrayal hung in the air, and I could almost feel it suffocating me. I took a deep breath and walked into the living room, finding Lily sitting on the couch, staring blankly ahead. Her face was unreadable, but I could see the hint of guilt in her eyes. "You're back," she said, her voice soft but full of something I couldn't quite place. Was it regret? Was it concern? I didn't care. She had destroyed everything, and now she was pretending it was just another day. I didn't respond immediately. I just stood there, staring at her. How could she sit there so calmly after what had happened? How could she look at me without a shred of remorse for everything she had done? I spoke to him. I finally said, my voice cold. "Chad." I confronted him. "He knows what he did. But you're the one who destroyed everything. You're the one who lied to me, who told me everything was fine while you were out there, playing games behind my back." She didn't look surprised, just resigned. "I didn't lie to you, Mark," she said, her tone steady. "I told you the truth in my own way. I needed something I couldn't get from you. And I found it with him." The words felt like a slap in the face. She was speaking so casually, like it wasn't the most painful thing I'd ever heard. Like she hadn't just destroyed our marriage, our lives. "Something?" I repeated, my voice trembling with anger. "Is that what you call it? You think I didn't notice? You think I didn't know something was off? You think I wasn't dying inside, wondering where the woman I loved had gone?" She didn't flinch. She didn't even seem to care. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mark," she said, her voice almost soft. "But you weren't here. I needed someone to be there for me, to care about me the way you used to. And I found that in Chad." I could feel my pulse racing, my hands tightening into fists. "So that's it," I spat. "You throw everything away for some guy who doesn't even respect you? You destroy us because you needed attention?" "I didn't destroy anything," she snapped back, finally showing some emotion. "You did. You were never here. You were always gone. Always busy. I was alone, Mark. Alone in a marriage that was slowly dying." Her words cut deeper than anything I could have imagined. I had fought for us. I had been away, yes, but I had done it all for her, for us. And now she was turning it all on me, making me the villain in this story. But it wasn't going to work. Not this time. "You could have come to me," I said through gritted teeth. "You could have talked to me. We could have figured it out. But instead, you chose to destroy everything. You chose to lie, to cheat, to betray everything we had." Her eyes met mine, And for the first time in what felt like forever, I saw a flicker of something, guilt, regret, but it was fleeting, disappearing as quickly as it had appeared. I never meant for it to go this far, she said quietly. I didn't want to hurt you. I just couldn't keep pretending. The words didn't register. I didn't care anymore. Nothing she said could fix this. Nothing could change what had happened. I had seen the truth, heard it from her own mouth, and now I knew what I had to do. It was over. It had been over the moment I found out she had been lying to me. The moment I realized I wasn't the man she needed me to be. You don't get to say that, I said, my voice finally breaking. You don't get to apologize now. You had your chance, and you threw it all away. I turned away from her, the weight of the decision heavy in my chest. It was done. There was nothing left here. No love, no trust, just a wreckage of what once was. And I couldn't keep holding on to something that had already slipped through my fingers. I'm leaving, I said, my voice steady now, final. For good. Her face faltered for a moment, and for the briefest second, I thought I saw something resembling real emotion. But it didn't matter. It was too late. She had made her choice. I didn't wait for her to respond. I didn't need to hear anything more. I walked out, leaving the woman I had loved, the woman I thought I knew, behind. And as I closed the door, I knew that no matter what came next, nothing would ever be the same again. The cold night air hit me hard as I stepped out of the house. I could still feel the weight of everything hanging around my shoulders, every betrayal, every lie, and the destruction of everything I thought I had. My world had crumbled in front of me, and no matter how hard I tried to put it back together, the pieces weren't fitting. There was no coming back from this. There was no fixing what had been shattered beyond recognition. I didn't have a destination in mind as I drove. I just needed to be away, far away from the house, far away from her. Every road I took felt endless, like I was just driving through an empty landscape, lost in my thoughts, lost in the wreckage of my own life. The silence in the car was deafening, only broken by the occasional sound of my tires against the asphalt. I couldn't stop thinking about Lily, about how cold she had been, how indifferent to the wreckage she had caused. I had come back expecting to find the woman I loved, expecting to pick up where we left off. But there was nothing left, just an empty shell of what we once were. And I wasn't sure if I would ever be able to forgive her for that. But the hardest part was still to come. It wasn't just about her. It was about me, about what I was going to do with my life now. I had spent so much of it trying to protect her, trying to protect us. But now I was left with nothing but the remnants of a broken marriage. And I didn't know how to move forward. I found myself in a park, somewhere far from the chaos of my life, parked on the side of a lonely road. I sat in the car, staring out at the empty playground, the swings creaking in the wind. Everything felt so still, so quiet. But inside, it was anything but. The storm inside me hadn't stopped. It raged on, and I wasn't sure how to contain it anymore. A buzz from my phone broke the silence. I glanced at the screen. It was a message from Ryan. He had been my lifeline throughout all of this. He had been there for me when I couldn't make sense of any of it, when I felt like I was losing control. "How are you holding up?" the message read. I stared at the screen for a moment before typing back. "I don't know, man. I just feel lost. Like I don't even know who I am anymore. I thought I had everything figured out, but now, I don't know what's left." Ryan didn't respond right away. I knew he was probably waiting for me to talk, to let out what I had been holding back.